Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Dan McCulka and I'm a member of the HSE team here at Dexter. Today we'll be covering hazard communication safety training. Let's get started on staying safe and informed. So lesson objectives. So today we're going to cover what the HazCom standard is, what GHS labels are, what safety data sheets are, and the employer's responsibility. So chemicals are often needed to help make many of the products we use. Incidents and injuries are always possible with hazardous chemicals, but by knowing their safety requirements, you can greatly decrease the risks. So this first section is all about GHS container labels. So OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard, also known as HazCom, is your right to know rulebook for workplace chemicals. If there's something hazardous nearby, you have the right to know. So you have the right to know what it is, what it can do, and how to stay safe from it. Hint, PPE is key. So it's not just about labels and paperwork, it's about preventing injuries, protecting lives, and keeping operations smooth and compliant. So back in 2012, OSHA synced up with the UN's Global Harmonized System, also known as GHS, a universal approach to chemical safety. By 2024, we are on GHS revision 7, meaning labels are clearer, SDSs are sharper, hazard info travels with the chemical from the manufacturer to the end user. Bottom line here is if you're working with chemicals, the info you need should always be within reach, just like your PPE. So GHS, labels that actually make sense. So GHS makes chemical labels clear, consistent, and useful. No more mystery goo. So every hazardous chemical label must be readable in English and follow a standard format. It must also show what the chemical is, its hazards, and how to stay safe. Once you know the format, you're fluent in chemical safety. Labels equal your quick guide to staying out of trouble. So now we'll look more into these container labels and what they need. So every hazardous container label must have a label with 6 key pieces of info, like a safety-focused nutrition label. It tells you what the chemical is, what it can do, and how to handle it safely. So labels must be easy to read in English, as discussed in the previous slide, clearly visible. And before you open or use a chemical, be sure to check the label. It's your first line of defense for what could potentially be a danger. So the first thing that a hazardous chemical label needs is a product identifier. So every hazardous chemical needs a clear official name or number, also called product identifier. So it must match across the label, SDS, and inventory sheets. If it doesn't, it's like mismatched luggage tags, confusing and risky. Think of it as the chemical's ID badge. If something doesn't line up, be sure to ask questions before taking action. The next thing included on a label is the signal word, which is a label that includes a signal word which tells you how serious the hazard is. Examples include danger, which means high risk, or warning, which equals moderate risk. It's a one-word alert, short but powerful. If you see it, respect it, and respond accordingly. Next is a hazard statement. Hazard statements tell you exactly what risks a chemical poses. No fluff, just facts. They're specific to the hazard type, consistent across manufacturers, and they're meant to help you make safe choices. Read them, respect them. They're your heads up to avoid harm. Next is precautionary statement. These tell you how to handle chemicals safely. They cover prevention, response, storage, and disposal tactics. You'll find these on labels and in SDSs. Think of them as your chemical safety playbook, simple, clear, and essential. Next is supplier identification. Every label must list the supplier's name, address, and phone number, so you know who to make or who made or shipped the product. It's your direct line for questions or concerns, like tech support for chemical safety. And pictograms. Pictograms are standardized icons that quickly show what kind of danger the chemical possesses. Chemical, physical, explosives, flammables, health, harm to body systems, environmental, damage to nature. Each pictogram features a black symbol, white background, and a red diamond border. A label may show more than one because some chemicals bring multiple risks. Looking more at pictograms, GHS includes 9 pictograms, but OSHA only enforces 8. Here are the 8 that OSHA enforces. Health hazard, flame, exclamation mark, gas cylinder, corrosion, exploding bomb, flame over circle, and skull and crossbones. Note that the environment one, which is found on the bottom middle, is the last one that only the EPA enforces, not the OSHA department. So each symbol gives a quick visual cue about the hazard type. And note, GHS pictograms don't replace DOT transport labels. GHS is for the workplace safety. DOT is for shipping safety. So although it's not required by OSHA, you may also see an additional label noted as supplemental information. This has additional instructions or information that the manufacturer feels is important and was included by the label producer because it was deemed relevant for anybody who happens to handle the chemical downstream. So how to use container labels. So we should treat them as a safety checklist before handling the chemical. So some things to consider: know the 6 label elements, read the label to confirm it's the right chemical and understand the risks associated with it. No label, do not use it. Report it for proper relabeling. Still unsure? Be sure to check the SDS for full safety details. The bottom line here is labels are your first safety tool, so be sure to use them every time. On to the next section. This section is all about safety data sheets. Let's begin. So safety data sheets, or SDSs, go beyond labels. They give you detailed information on chemical appearance and properties, hazards and health risks, emergency actions for spills, exposure, and reactions. Knowing how to read an SDS helps you stay safe and respond smartly. It's your go-to guide for chemical safety. So the SDS is made up of 16 sections, and here we're going to begin with section 1. Product and company info. This section introduces the chemical and its source. It includes product identifier, which we talked about on the labels, supplier information such as name, address, or phone number, and uses and restrictions, what it's for and what it's not. Before using any chemical, start here. It's your first clue on how to handle safely. Section 2, hazards identification. So this section outlines the chemical's risks using pictograms, signal words, hazard statements, precautionary statements. It's your quick guide to understanding how hazardous the chemical is and how to handle it safely. Section 3 is compositions, what it's made of. This section lists the ingredients that the chemical's made of, highlighting hazardous components, trade secrets, if any, and concentration details when applicable. It's your behind-the-scenes look at what's in the mix, which parts require extra caution. SDS Section 4, First Aid Measures. This section covers what to do if someone is exposed to the chemical. Symptoms, what to watch for from mild to severe. First aid, step-by-step instructions for treating exposure. It's your emergency guide. Know it before you need it. Section 5, firefighting measures. This section covers what to do if the chemical catches fire. Combustibility, can it ignite or explode? Byproducts, are there any harmful fumes or smoke released during burning? Firefighting methods, what works? Foam, dry, chemical, etc. What'll work to fight the fire? And then just a reminder, don't guess during a fire. Use this section to respond safely and effectively. Section 6, accidental release measures. This section guides you through safe cleanup after a spill or leak. Emergency procedures, immediate actions to protect people and contain the spill. PPE, what gear to wear while responding, as well as cleanup instructions. So how to safely remove the chemical. If a chemical escapes, don't guess. Follow Section 6 to stay safe and in control and prevent further issues down the line. On the SDS Section 7, handling and storage. This section helps you use and store chemicals safely. Starting with handling, safe practices to avoid accidents, storage, where and how to store it properly, and incompatibilities, what not to mix with the product. So check this section before use or storage. It's your guide to keeping things stable and safe. On to Section 8, exposure controls and personal protection, or PPE. This section tells you how to stay safe around the chemical, including exposure limits, OSHA and ACGIH guidelines for safe air levels, PPE, what's required for handling the product, and then safe handling tips, how to avoid exposure and accidents. Before working with the chemical, be sure to check this section out to protect yourself properly. Here's an example of Section 8. Section 9, physical and chemical properties. This section describes how the chemical looks, smells, and behaves, including appearance and odor, visual and scent clues, melting or flash points. This is when it changes state or ignites. Also, it talks about evaporation and vapor pressure, flammability and explosion limits, and other properties such as density, solubility, and viscosity. It's your preview of how the chemical acts before you actually interact with it. Section 10, stability and reactivity. So this section explains how the chemical behaves under different conditions. So stability, whether it stays stable or reacts easily. Conditions to avoid, such as heat, light, moisture, or incompatible substances. Use this section to prevent unwanted reactions and keep things safe and predictable. On to Section 11, toxicological information. This section explains health risks from chemical exposure. Exposure routes including breathing, skin contact, ingestion, symptoms, whether they're immediate or delayed effects, acute or chronic conditions, so short-term versus long-term health impacts, and then toxicity levels, how harmful the chemical actually is. It helps you understand what could go wrong and how to avoid it. Section 12, ecological information. This section explains the chemical's impact on the environment. Persistence, so how long it stays in nature, mobility, how it spreads, and then environmental effects, harm to plants, animals, and ecosystems. Use this info to minimize environmental damage and stay compliant. Section 13 explains proper disposal of the chemical in its container. Section 14 talks about transportation info. It includes the safe and unsafe ways of moving the chemical, and it covers any applicable national or international laws, regulations, or standards that govern transport of the chemical. Section 15, regulatory info. This section describes the safety, health, and environmental laws that apply. And then the last section 16 is other information. This includes any additional details not covered in the sections 1 through 15. It's the final check for extra safety tips and up-to-date data before you close the SDS. So we learned about the sections, but how to use SDSs without the headache. So SDSs may look complex, but they're your best tool for understanding chemical safety. They tell you what the chemical is, how to handle it safely, and what to do during an emergency. So at Dexter, SDSs are available digitally on a platform called Sphera and in hard copy form on site in most break rooms. So know where they are, use them, and if you can't find one or it's unclear, ask your supervisor. Never guess with chemicals. So you should now understand how the HazCom standard helps keep you safe from hazardous chemicals, how to read chemical labels without needing a decoder ring, and how to use safety data sheets like a pro to stay safe on the job. Remember, labels, SDSs, and asking questions are your go-to tools for working smart and staying safe. Thank you for your attention and commitment to workplace safety. By understanding and following the hazard communication training, you can help yourself and your coworkers stay safe every day. So now stay safe and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks, team.